Then we came to New York Temple, and Prabhupada gave a lecture, and coincidentally enough, he spoke about Indians, and he said especially those who are born in India, Bharat Bhumi te hoile manusya janma ja, janma sarthak kari kara paropakar. They should make their life successful by becoming Krishna conscious and deliver others. And I was there in the crowd and I was hearing, and I felt like, he was telling me that, you're just wasting your life, become serious. And because the environment was so nice, and it was like I was making a very rapid progress. And then the devotees was everywhere. It was 400 devotees in little 439 Henry Street building. So it was really crowded. Next morning, around 11 o'clock, I remember, I was just hanging around Bhagavan Prabhu. And Bhagavan Das said, just wait here and see, whenever I get a time, I'll take you. So he took me in to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting alone in his little room there. And he said, Prabhupada, this boy is an engineer in Detroit, and he's now chanting Hare Krishna, and he's read your books and he wanted to meet you. So Prabhupada said, oh yes, what is your name? I said, my name is Janak Joshi, and where are you from? I'm from Surat. Oh, you're from Surat. Surat is a very nice place. I was there and I received a very good reception. People were very, very pious, and they were very interested in chanting. It's a very nice place. What are you doing? I'm an engineer. So you work as engineer, and whenever you have sufficient money, you go and build a temple there. So this was the first instruction that Prabhupada gave me when I met him. Incidentally, Prabhupada's first instruction was fulfilled. Now we don't have, not only we have temple in Surat, but we have temple in Ahmedabad, Baroda, Surat. We have 6 temples in Gujarat right now. In Surat we have a very beautiful temple just opened last year on the bank of the river Tapi. It's also a very nice place, Radha Damodar temple.
I came to the temple in San Francisco, and I was there for a couple of weeks, and the devotees were on their way to London to open the London temple under Prabhupada's order. So I went with them. They were going to be stopping in Montreal to see Srila Prabhupada, get his blessings for their London preaching. And I went with them to be initiated by Prabhupada in Montreal. And then the plan was that I was going to Boston to join the painting group that was painting in Boston and at that time. So I first saw Prabhupada in Montreal, and he was staying at that time on West Prince Arthur Street in a house, and I went there to that house with Malati, Shama Shindar, Jamuna, Gurudas, that group, and with baby Saraswati. So the first time I saw Prabhupada, we went to this house and ran across these stones and came into Prabhupada's room, and I remember my first impression of Prabhupada was he was absolutely effulgent. It was just like the room was completely brilliant effulgence coming from him. And I remember reading that in books, that when you see your true guru, he will be effulgent like that, and he truly was. He was absolutely. It was like a Brahma Jyoti. Seeing him, he was just filling the room with light.
The next day, I think Prabhupada came on the 3rd of July. The next day was the 4th of July, 1974. Sri Govinda was president. He said to me, Srila Prabhupada's writing letters in his room. Don't let anybody in. And we gave Srila Prabhupada the whole Brahmachari ashram that year. Everybody moved out. And it was an old YMCA building, so it was a big quarters back there. Many different rooms. So he said, don't let anybody in this room, stand outside this door, and don't let anybody in. And it was vacant back there because that was Prabhupada's quarters, the whole back. And he said he probably won't come out, so don't worry. He's, you know, I'm like, okay. You know, so I'm standing by Prabhupada's door, and sure enough, a minute later, right after Sri Govinda leaves, Prabhupada comes out, opens the door, walks. I hit the floor, pay my obeisances. And Prabhupada walked into the back bathroom. And when he came back, I was still on my knees. And in one swift motion, Srila Prabhupada walked past me, put his hand on my head, said, Hare Krishna, and walked in his room. But when Srila Prabhupada put his hand on my head, it was like a lightning bolt had hit me. That's how I can describe it. I was completely just surcharged with ecstasy. I mean, I was ecstatic, you know, and I was experiencing emotions. I just, you know, I wanted to start chanting and dancing, and I was like really ecstatic. And a couple minutes later, Sri Govinda walks in to check on me, and as he turned a corner, he looked at me and he stopped, and he's going, Tranakarta, you're glowing. And I just tried to say, Prabhupada, and he said, no, you're glowing. And I said, Prabhupada just touched my head. So Prabhupada touched my head and gave me unlimited mercy, made me ecstatic.
Then I remember I was sitting there, and he was also talking about one devotee who was, I think he had some fall down. And the lead, Kirtananda Maharaj, somebody brought the news that Prabhupada, your servant has had some affair with some lady here. So Prabhupada went like this. He said, in the old days, the Kshatriyas had more than one wife. So he said, so whatever you want to do, you do. So they said, but he should not be your servant, Prabhupada. So he said, okay, so give me another servant, no problem. And I saw the air of detachment and the air of, and the mood of tolerance. Prabhupada was such a tolerant person because he was just thinking that in this age of Kali, especially in this country, whatever people will, whatever percentage of my teachings people will accept, I'll accept it. It is 5%, 10%. And gradually maybe people, as the time goes, they will advance. So whenever there was a problem, he never made a big thing out of a problem. That I saw the first day, in my first meeting in New York, that I saw the way he was so nonchalant. He said, he did not condone the activity, but just to cool down the people who are complaining. He just said that, you know, in the old days, Kshatriya had more than one wife. So, but then he removed him as a servant.
They sort of presented me to Prabhupada. They said, this is Wendy, she's only 16 years old, and she's become a devotee, wants to be your disciple. And Prabhupada, it was really quite, his compassion was so great. He saw me and they said I was 16 years old, and he said, but where are your parents? It's so funny to think of the most compassionate Prabhupada, so concerned for my parents suffering that I wasn't with them, and so that was very sweet. Well, but where are your parents?
One walk, we were walking with Prabhupada, all the sannyasis, there must have been 15 sannyasis, maybe 15 devotees on the walk, probably 30 people at least. And Prabhupada was walking by Northwestern University up in Evanston in Illinois, very beautiful place, the college grounds. Anyway, Prabhupada walked under one tree, and it had all these little white flowers on them. Very beautiful, and the branches were hanging down. So Prabhupada was looking at the flower. He stopped, and he's looking at the flowers, then he grabbed one, put it behind his ear, started to walk. He took like 2 or 3 steps, stopped, looked at all of us, and went So we all started picking flowers and putting them behind. It's like a picture right out of the 60s, you know. So, it was pretty blissful. And then as we walked down, I remember Prabhupada sat in the sand, and he started, we put our chadars down for him, and he started to talk about the material scientists, how they dig up bones, Prabhupada says. They dig up bones, and Prabhupada started digging in the sand with his hands. He was going, they're digging, 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 just like the dog. He said they dig up these bones and they think they have conclusive evidence how life began. Of course, he's just blasting the scientists. I remember that was very nice, very ecstatic walk.